Hey, what's going on, folks? This is Keith, and you're watching Barber's Auto Help. Today I've got my '05 Honda Odyssey here with a 3.5 liter in it, and I'm going to be showing you how to replace the starter on this thing. I believe my starter went out, and this is a Sunday. We were on our way to church, went to get a drink out of the convenience store, came back out, the thing wouldn't start up. So I believe it's the starter. I don't have my diagnostic equipment here to test it, so I'm going to be taking it off, taking it down to the parts store, and having them bench test it just to make sure that it is a starter. But either way, I'm going to show you how to take this thing off and put it back on. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, first things first, go ahead and take the engine cover off. You've got these two screws right here. You just turn them 90 degrees like that. Pull up on this side of the cover there, and then pull up on the back on this side and on that side, and the engine cover comes right off. And now we're going to remove our air filter housing and this air inlet snorkel right here, and go ahead and disconnect this sensor. Push down on that tang, pull out on it like so, and get the harness out of the way there. Then you're going to need a 10 millimeter. Go ahead and loosen that up right there. Remove this pipe from your hose here. Usually you'll squeeze this together like that and just pull right out on it. And we're just going to take this clamp here and set it off to the side safely. Now the upper portion of our air filter housing is held on by 4 8 millimeter screws on each corner of the air filter housing there. And off camera I'm going to take and loosen those up for you, and then we're just going to take the whole housing off. Alright, we got our 4 air filter housing screws loosened. Let's go ahead and pull this off the throttle body right here. And just pull right up on this housing. Pull it right out of the way. And by the way, it's probably not a bad idea, before you do any of what I just showed you, disconnect the negative battery cable first. Set it off to the side just in case. Okay, now I'm going to be removing my battery. I'm going to start by disconnecting the negative clamp first, setting the cable off to the side so it doesn't touch. Then I'm going to remove my positive clamp, and there's supposed to be a battery hold down across the top of my battery here. I'm missing mine, but you should have it on yours. There's probably 2 studs on either side that have 10 millimeter nuts that hold a bracket onto the top of the battery there. Remove those 10 millimeters and pull that bracket off. And then once you got that, just pull the battery right out. Now once your battery's out of the way, go ahead and remove this. Okay, now I'm going to remove the lower portion of my air filter housing. There's a 10 millimeter bolt right here and a 10 millimeter bolt right there. I'm going to go ahead and remove those. And then we're just going to pull it right out. Okay, both of our bolts are loose. We're going to go ahead and grab it, and we're going to pull it right out of that snorkel right there and right up and out of the way. Now from what I can see here, we got this bolt here that holds the wire harness to the battery tray. I'm going to unbolt that. There's also a bolt right down there, and then there's also a bolt right there, and then there's also a bolt, 2 bolts I believe going this way, one right here and one bolt going this way, one right there down on the bottom where the tray hits the mounts to the frame there. And I almost forgot, there's this 10 millimeter bolt that holds the air duct to the battery tray right here. You have to take that out also. Of course, I've got to unbolt those off camera. And a little bit of information that might help you when it comes to getting the bolt out that's down there that goes in sideways. You can disconnect your ABS module, and it really kind of opens it up, and you can see there's that bolt right there. It's wide open once you got that connector out of the way. And it's probably best to use a ratcheting wrench to get that out. 12 millimeter ratcheting wrench, that'd be the best tool to use for that. Now this connector here, I'll show you how it operates. See these little slides right here? This is what locks the connector onto the ABS module right there. And when you put it back on, you're going to push it up in that position. It's going to look like that. To disconnect it, push this little tang down right here, right there, and then while you're pushing that down, you pull down on the orange handle like so. I'm doing this one-handed while I'm holding my cell phone there. There we go. And you see how it released it like that? And then you just pull it right off of that ABS module right there. Now when you're going back on with it, be sure that that orange handle is all the way down like that. You see those little grooves right there. They have to go over these little humps and if they're not lined up, it's not going to want to go on correctly. So make sure they're lined up first, put it on, then go ahead and pull your orange handle up, and that will kind of cinch it down the rest of the way and lock it in place. All right, so I got all my bolts loose. You can see this wire harness is connected there. Just gotta, if you got a pair of dikes or something, or wire cutters, kind of slip it behind there and kind of pry it off. Don't cut it, just pry it off, but put it in between, right in between there, and pry it out that way. And it looks like I actually broke mine, so I might have to zip tie that back in when I'm done. But once the bolts are loose, you just pull the whole thing out like this. There we go, we got our battery tray. Now, a couple things for you. This is how it sits, and you can see you got that hole right there. I thought it was going to be through that hole right here, the little oblong hole, but it's not. It was off to the side there, and there's that other one right there. So 4 bolts holds it to the frame, and then of course you got this bolt hole here that holds the air duct to it, and then your wire harness bolts on right here. The way I was able to get that one bolt that goes in sideways, that bolts up right there, it's going to be near impossible to get through the top and get it undone there. So I went up through, I got up underneath the vehicle. You see that splash plate right there? I kind of folded it down a little bit, and I stuck my arm up in there with a 10mm or a 12mm wrench, and I just wrenched it right out from through there. So that's the way you can get that bolt. That was the easiest way, in my opinion, to get that bolt. And by the way, if you do choose to go up underneath the vehicle through that flap like I did, you'll need to jack it up and support your vehicle so that you can safely do that. That's not shown in this video here, and you need to get that information on how to safely and properly lift and support your vehicle elsewhere. Now these 2 bolts here, the one that goes in the top right here on this side and on that side, I just doubled up on a couple of 6-inch extensions and put a 12mm on it, of course, and just pulled it right out the top just like that. So getting the battery tray out, that by far is the hardest thing of this whole project, because you can see the starter is wide open now once you get all that junk out of the way. So we got to remove our cover. We need to remove that. I believe that's either a 12 or 13mm. Then we got our primary circuit right here that we have to disconnect also. Okay, and on our primary circuit here, let's just go ahead and pull this cover back. You see it's a female blade connector. Just go ahead and grab it and pull straight out on it. And when you're pulling this out, try to grab it by the metal part right there. I wouldn't pull on the wire to pull it out. Grab it by the metal part and pull it out that way. That way you don't pull the wiring out of that that female blade connector there. And now we're going to go ahead and take our main power feed loose. And this is actually a 12mm, guys, just to clarify that right there. And why is this not focusing? There we go. Loosen that up there. Take that out the rest of the way there. All right, we got that loose. Enough blabbing. We have a bolt up top here. I believe that's going to be a 14mm. Let me check that for you. Actually, I was totally wrong. That's actually a 17mm. We're going to put a 17mm on the end of a 6-inch extension and put a ratchet on it, take that bolt out. Now there's one on the other side up underneath there that you can't see, and I'll show you when I get it out. There's 2 bolts that hold the starter on. I'll get it out and show you where that other one's located at. Now something that will help you on the bottom bolt for the starter is removing this harness here, and you got a little tang, push it that way, and when you're pushing it that way, go ahead and grab it and pull it out like that, pull it off of there. That way you can get your socket wrench and your extension into it that way, and this won't get in the way here, or this harness won't get in the way. All right, we got both of our bolts taken loose. We can go ahead and take our starter out just like so. And by the way, there's 2 bolts that hold it on. That top one there, the shorter bolt goes in the top, the longer bolt goes in the bottom. And here's an image of that starter with it out. See, it got the top bolt hole there, and there's the bottom bolt hole. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in a baggie. I'm going to take it up to the parts store, have them bench test it, pretty sure it's bad, and we'll get a new starter and we'll stick it in there. So yeah, it was a bad starter, and we got a new starter here. Now the new starter should come with a new nut here and a washer. Go ahead and remove those two before taking it out and putting it in, and remove that right there. Now we're ready to put it in. Before you put it on though, go ahead and clean your mounting area there. Make sure there's no dirt and debris that might get in between the starter and the mounting surface there. So go ahead and do that with a rag, a lint-free rag, and we'll put the starter back on. Okay, so we got our two mounting bolts tightened back down, one up top here, one up underneath where you can't see, of course. You want to tighten those up to manufacturer specification using a torque wrench. That's not shown here, and I don't have that specification for you guys. You'll need a repair manual for that. Now once you got that, let's go ahead and get our wire harness back in place here. See right here, go ahead and slide it back up on that there bracket until it clicks into place. All right, and we can go ahead and hook up our primary circuit to that blade right there. Push it until it clicks. Make sure your cover's over it. You want to keep that weatherproof. And something else you want to check for, especially if you got a remanufactured starter like I have here, that nut there that goes on before your power feed wire, be sure that that nut is tight. Mine was loose. And our main power feed, go ahead and hook that up right there. And you're going to take your new washer and your new nut and put it on there and tighten it up to manufacturer specification. Again, you'll need a torque wrench for that. I don't have that information. I do apologize. Use your repair manual for that information. Let's go ahead and put that back on. And your nut size may vary, depends on what they give you. All right, so we got our nut tight. Let's go ahead and put our cover back on. Make sure it's nice and weather tight there. Keep it protected. All right, so now we're ready to put our battery tray back in. I'm gonna go ahead and put that in off camera there. Remember, you got 4 bolts, one right here, one right there, one down there. Oh, wait, where are you at? There you are. One right there. And then one goes right there. So don't forget, you got 4 bolts that hold it to the frame or to the body right there. And then of course you got your wire harness over here that it bolts to, and then of course your air duct right there that it bolts to. And if there's anything else, I'll show you here in a minute. All right, so we got our battery tray back in, and we do got this bolt back in for the air duct right there. And then also don't forget this bolt here that holds up the wire harness. Now we can go ahead and reconnect our ABS module. Go ahead and set that into place there, just like that. Now we're going to slide our orange clip back up into place. I'm going to make sure it snaps, and it did. And our white holders are down, so that's in there and that's secure. That's good to go. At this point, we're ready to put our lower air filter housing back in. All right, let's go ahead and put that back in there like this. Get the that part back in the snorkel there. Set it into place. Make sure your bolt's lined up with the bolt hole there, and that this bolt is lined up with this bolt hole here. Go ahead and tighten them down, and they don't have to be super tight. I'm not sure what the specification is on this, but it's just holding a piece of plastic on, so it's not really tight. So I'm going to put my ratchet on that and tighten them down by hand here in just a minute. Now earlier when I was taking this air filter housing off, I didn't show you this. This wire harness right here, it goes all the way to your positive battery clamp here. It actually fits down into the bottom air filter housing like so. And then this portion right here is supposed to go on your battery hold down, which I don't have on mine. So I just wanted to clarify that to you if you was wondering what in the world I was supposed to do about that, or what you were supposed to do about that. It just pops right out and you pop it right back in. Now we're going to put our upper portion of our air filter housing back in. I'm going to start by placing the snorkel on the throttle body like so, and then place the upper portion of the air filter housing on the lower portion. And you got to tighten up your 4 bolts here. They're 8 millimeters, one right here, one right there, and there, and then one back on this side down there. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten those up off camera there. I'm also going to tighten up the hose clamp on the throttle body here, and I think it slipped down. There we go. I'll tighten that up also. All right, let's not forget our little clamp back here and our pipe, we got to put it back on. I'm just going to go ahead and slide my clamp back on the hose there. Go ahead and put our pipe back in place there. It does help to squeeze that while you're pushing that back in. So I'm going to set you down and do that myself. There we go, we got it. And let's go ahead and put our sensor harness back on there. Boot this up underneath that right there. Go ahead and reconnect our sensor on top of the throttle body. Make sure it clicks. And it did. Give it a little tug, make sure it's on there. So that's good. Now we're ready for our battery. First we got to put our little plastic tray in first. Sit that down in there like so. I see on this side, you got a little hook to receive your battery cable. So that's how you got to set that down in there like that. And of course you got this part right here that allows your battery hold down to go through there. Of course mine is missing, so you won't see me put the battery hold down in unfortunately. Once you got that in place, go ahead and set your battery down. All right, we got our battery in place here. I'm going to go ahead and take this harness like I told you and set it up in that little hook there. And now I'm going to go ahead and connect my positive battery clamp onto the positive post first, and then my negative onto the negative clamp or negative post. Now I got my battery back in. I've got my battery clamps on and tightened down, and this is broke on mine. Excuse me about that. Now it's time to test it out, see if it starts. And that's pretty much it, guys. Of course, you got to put your engine cover back on. You got these two grommets, one right here and one right here, which that one's missing on mine. The engine cover goes on, and you got a teat that goes down into that grommet there. Just push it down into it. Same on that side. And of course, your two screws, one right here, one right there. Put them in, turn them 90 degrees on each side, and you're good to go. That will do it for this episode. I do appreciate you guys watching. If you have any questions, please comment down below, right down below there. Also, please read the entire description of this video before you attempt this or apply any of this knowledge. The description is located just beneath the video. If you're watching this video on a platform other than youtube.com, you may need to go to youtube.com/barbersautohelp to find this video, and the description will be right beneath it. Please read that before you attempt this, guys. Also, please like and subscribe. And if you dislike, which is fine, just comment down below, let me know why. Help me help you. So if you dislike and you don't tell me why, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. So just comment down below there, and we'll work on that in the future. Thank you again, guys. I appreciate you watching. Bye.